Welcome everyone to our very first guest episode of The Balance Theory. I am so excited to have a very special guest on today, but before we get stuck into it, I just want to remind everyone, if they haven't watched episode 0 from last release, I would strongly suggest you go back and just get your head around the concept just so you can get the most out of the next few episodes. It'll only take you about 20 minutes, so definitely go back and watch that one before getting stuck into the next juicy episodes. Cool. But without further ado, I am honoured to welcome...
I'm honoured to be here.
...a very, very special guest. She is a registered psychologist who specialises in, just to name a few, anxiety, depression, body image, self-esteem. The list goes on, and she has been featured in many prominent magazines such as Cosmopolitan, Men's Health, Sydney Morning Herald, Better Homes and Gardens, and who knows where the future will take you. Without further ado, Miss Nancy Saccano.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So welcome.
This is probably my first ever podcast, which I've been putting off for a long time, but I'm very excited to be here with Balance Theory today, and I think it's important what you're doing here, and it's something that lots of people really struggle with, trying to find that balance in their lives. And what does balance even mean?
We're going to get right stuck into it.
Yeah.
So I would love to know, both from a professional and personal point of view, what that means to you. But before we kind of dive down that path, obviously we know you're a registered psychologist, but could you tell us a little bit about what you do and why you do what you do?
Sure. So I became provisionally registered in 2015 after a very long-winded university degree, and fully registered in 2000.
That was a nice way to say it.
Very, very long-winded. And I think that's one of the questions so many people ask me, how did you become a psychologist? I'm like, it's a long road.
Just go to uni and then just wait till it's done and then work it out.
Yeah. So then I became fully registered in 2018 and have been doing therapy ever since. And I think for me, balance has been really hard to juggle because psychology is so demanding.
Yeah, for sure.
You also want to be really, I guess, sensitive with your time in regards to doing therapy, because it's so mentally draining, and it's something that you have to really focus on where that line is. And then having, of course, personal relationships and taking care of myself, and the list goes on really. And outside of therapy, there's, admin and emails and all of that any normal job has as well. So it's a combination of a lot of things. And I think for me, I found it really hard because I was like, I want to be available all the time. I want to be available before school and before work, and I want to be available after work and after school and in between as well. And so I think initially I spread myself too thin.
Yeah.
And, I went guns blazing, and I was like, I can do this. I don't have, other external responsibilities. I'm not married, don't have kids, don't have a mortgage, etc. So I was like, I got this. And then I got to probably 18 months and now I'm coming on to 2 and a bit years, and I'm feeling it. I definitely am. And then I've taken on other things as well, like writing articles and my YouTube and Instagram, and hopefully a podcast as well.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. And I've had to take a step back and be like, how can I fit this all in and then have a normal life as well?
Well, that's sort of the big question we ask, and I'm so excited to have people such as yourself on who are always seeking to fill their cup more, to not only make themselves more available for others in their profession and personal lives, but then also show up for yourself too. Mm-hmm. So why is it that firstly you went into psychology, and what keeps you going day-to-day professionally? What is it that drives you?
I think initially why I wanted to get into psychology is probably why everyone wants to get into psychology, to help other people.
It's not to read everyone's mind?
We don't study telepathy, we study psychology. I mean, if I had $1 for every time someone said, do you know what I'm thinking? I'm like, if I knew what you were thinking,
such a common thought,
I wouldn't be here. Right? Yeah. So initially that was it. But then I wanted really to widen the perspective of psychology. I wanted to erode the stigma around mental health and make it really accessible to young teens and young adults, just like myself. Growing up in a Middle Eastern household, psychology wasn't something that was, brought up in the dinner table.
Wasn't with the bread and butter at entrees.
Right. And I thought, being, again, the child of import parents, I wanted to really widen the perspective of what psychology actually means, what mental health is, and how do we manage it as well. So, which is why I brought psychology to the social media space, because I felt like, yes, I could do my thing one-on-one in therapy, but how could I really expand this message to everyone around the world and make it something that's very easy to understand and really to comprehend, and so that people could understand their own mental health as well. I think that's something that keeps driving me. Most people say you're in it for the money. And I'm like, if I had to wake up every single day and work through people's problems all day, every day, money wouldn't cut it.
Yeah.
So
no, it's got to be more than that.
Yeah.
Which when we talk about that fulfillment area, it's always comes down to your why. And money will not drive you for a certain period of time. You really got to have that strong why. So
definitely,
thank you for sharing that. And I think the message you're spreading and the way you're making the whole concept accessible to more and more people is really important. And we'll definitely link the YouTube channel and your Instagram and your website down below, so everyone can access it too. Awesome. So just obviously your role as that stronghold for a lot of people's mental health would be quite demanding on you. Personally, I can imagine. So just talking about balance in your own life, how do you even juggle because I always think of people within your space or people who work with really emotionally taxing type roles, which personally I admire, but I just, how do you even begin to balance your own emotional needs? What if you've had a really bad day, you know, and then you have to go and help people with their really bad days too. Like, how do you manage all of that?
I think for me, a massive thing is to keep a routine. And so if I have routine and I have structure, then I have predictability. And it really helps me kind of process the day in a very black and white kind of way. And of course, there's curveballs all the time, but I wake up at 6:00 in the morning, I get to training at 6:30, I train for an hour, come home, I make myself breakfast, get ready for the day, and then I'll smash out 7 to 9 sessions in the day, of course responding to emails and uploading content and all of that in the middle, and then
a couple TikToks
a little bit of TikTok in there, and I get to the end of the day and I wrap up. I try and wrap up all my admin and things like that before I leave the office, so I don't have it lingering in my mind and then carry over to the next day, because I like to just cap it. So I'm like, I'm done for that day, and I can be fresh for the next. Get home, do my self-care routines, have some dinner. Sometimes I catch up with a friend so I can just kind of unleash and come back to human form.
Be you.
And then, try and get to sleep as early as possible, which I'm really bad at. Of course, I've got to catch up on all the Instagram stuff I missed out during the day, and then I get to sleep probably later than I should. And then
we don't need specifics.
and then all over again. So, but then I really leave my weekends to just do the things that I love to do. I love pampering myself. I love catching up with friends, having breakfast, lunch, dinner. Coronavirus has not been my friend in all of that. But I really try and keep really strong social ties. Over the years, I've had to kind of cull those social ties, which is sad in one perspective, but I really had to prioritize my time, and it's really important that I put 100% into my work, but I also put 100% into my personal relationships and myself and my family. And so I really needed to kind of reevaluate, reconfigure what that meant for me as work started to get busier, and I am quite career focused. So I think that it's been a challenge, definitely.
So you mentioned a few things that I'd love to dive into. So within your, I guess, routine and way you seek to balance your own life, both personally and professionally, you mentioned self-care routines, and you obviously have a couple rituals within your schedule, such as exercise. So if we focus firstly on the category of health, which is our first sort of area. So you've got your morning ritual of physical exercise. Why do you exercise? Just simply, because everyone's got their why. It varies greatly, but just if you had to give it really simply.
I mean, aesthetic is probably one of the top ringers.
No shame, no shame.
You know, exercise, and for me, even in the mental health space, I'm a massive advocate for physical health and the mind-body link. And so for me, exercise is about exerting anxious energy. It's about boosting my serotonin, my good neurotransmitter. It's making me feel more content, more happy throughout the day. It gives me mental clarity. It really kind of just like detoxes and dumps out the day before and gives me a clear mind to go into therapy and really engage with my clients. I find that when I don't exercise, be it I'm too tired or I'm too sore from the day before, I really feel it in session.
Yeah.
You know, I give so much energy in my sessions. I'm not, you know, about to sit there and look at you for 50 minutes and nod and ask you how you feel about that. You know, all of my clients will share testament to, you know, I'm engaged, I'm there, I'm ready, and I want to feel like I am 100% present with my client, and exercise gives me that. It really gives me that boost of energy, and it allows me to have a clear kind of trajectory for the day. And man, it feels good as well.
Look, I can totally relate. For me, my why for exercising is it's just like a mental dump in the morning. Definitely. It gives me like a clear ocean purview. It lets me just settle anything that feels a bit rattled or unresolved, I suppose, and just gives me that calm stream to just go ahead. And days where I don't exercise, I totally feel it. So that, I guess, spills over into your mental health, which is a second branch of that area. Is there anything else you do as part of your self-care routine that you'd categorize under self-care for your mental health?
So I'm a massive debriefer. You know, being in the industry that I'm in, you cannot carry the things that we hear every single day. And so I have some very, very strong bonds of colleagues that I speak to, I navigate through really hard stuff with. I have very close connections with my friends and family, and I'm able to work through things that I find a little bit difficult. If things get really heavy for me, I love to journal, write things down, map it out, really black and white. Often when there's so much chaos in our minds, we find it extremely hard to find a point of reference so that we can draw back and be logical and rational. And so if I can do that, you know, black and white in front of me, it often takes away that mental noise, and it allows you to understand what's actually going on for you, rather than, you know, this cyclic loop in our head. So that's something that's important for me, especially when I've had pretty intense sessions or a very, very long week. Again, exercise and just giving myself, you know, time out and just to de-stress, you know, whether it's doing a face mask, whether it's going to get my nails done, or get a massage, or just go for a walk. Anything that's going to allow me to, you know, come back from 100 and baseline again is really important for me.
Yeah, definitely. So if we've got, for anyone listening right now that might resonate with that chaos, they've got a lot going on, a lot of white noise going through their mind. From a professional point of view, and disclaimer, this does not substitute for any sort of professional advice either, but just as like a simple mental exercise they could go through, pen to paper, what are some things they could go through or write down that might help them navigate through a bit of a storm going on in their mind?
So thought journaling is really important, and, you know, not the whole Dear Diary stuff, but more practical in terms of, you know, what was your event? What was the emotion or the feeling that came with that event? And then what were your negative automatic thoughts? So they are the anxious thoughts that come up. So when we're having this mental storm, there's always going to be these massive falsified, really exaggerated, you know, catastrophized cognition. If you can just identify the event and where that came from, the emotion and the feeling that preceded that, and then your negative automatic thought, you then have the ability to really challenge the evidence for and against that thought. And so, you know, you're standing back and you're looking at it going, okay, do I have 100% evidence to suggest that this anxious thought is correct? And here is my evidence to suggest that. Or can I actually negate that anxious thought, and can I give it evidence against? And I find that it's so simple, but it really allows you to kind of break down what's going on in your mind. And it takes away that really exacerbated overthinking, overanalyzing, and it gives you a very logical stance in how to think about it. And then at the end of that, look at an alternate thought. What could you think of otherwise, you know, And I talk a lot about perceived outcome versus realistic outcomes. You know, our mind can falsify and go on tangents.
Be very creative while it's there.
Forever. Yeah. And lead you somewhere that you don't even understand how you got there. And so, you know, you've got to reel it back and really give yourself a structural way of going through those negative thoughts. And I find for my clients as well, that's a simple and really effective way of trying to get yourself out of a cognitive storm.
No, I love that. It's kind of like you're being the adjudicator or sitting in the witness box of your own
definitely.
argument going on, and just really saying, do I have a rational thought or argument here?
There's the lawyer in you.
There's the lawyer coming out. So in a couple of our previous conversations, you mentioned that mindset is something you're extremely not only personally passionate about, but professionally as well.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to us a little bit about what that means for you and why it's so important?
Right. I think mindset has been one of the biggest driving factors for me to date. And I know lots of people talk about motivation and feeling motivated to do things or get things done. But I find that motivation is actually not present a lot of the time for me. And mindset and discipline has really showed up for me and has allowed me to just continue doing what I'm doing and what's important to me. And I think mindset, again, like we spoke about, your why factor is really important. You know, we are so driven on purpose and we need to have value in the things that we do. So for me, a positive mindset means to just get the things done that I feel valuable and that are important or that I prioritize in my life. Sometimes, you know, things that I should be doing are not things that I want to be doing. And so I really reevaluate the why behind those things. You know, there's so many things that we need to be doing in our lives, the day-to-day, you know, running errands and seeing friends and all of that. And so for me, mindset means that I have this clear trajectory in what is it that I want to get done and I need to get done because of my why. So, you know, some days like you said before, I'm completely burnt out and I'm, you know, other things in my personal life are going on, but I've got to show up for my clients and I've got to really compartmentalize these things and go in with a really fresh mind and not have this transference to my client as well, which is, you know, not for them to carry whatsoever. Yeah. And so my mindset is really important because I can look at the things that are going on for me and I can disconnect from them and I can really be present in what I'm doing, and then I can deal with what I need to deal with. And I, by no means do I dismiss or avoid the things that are going on for me, but you know, there's a time and a place for everything. And
for sure,
I think that it's so important that we have purpose behind everything we do and not just because we need to.
Yeah. So that whole fulfillment category really goes on that tangent. It's what do you want to be doing with your time, whether it be a hobby, a career. If you're a full-time mom, that's your fulfillment, that's your purpose, that's your why. Yeah. And so I know there are a lot of people that are doing a 9 to 5, or some people unfortunately like a 7 to 9, whatever it is that they're doing, and you know, they might not feel that fulfillment. It's just because they got to pay the bills, right? Whatever the case may be. So for those people, they might find themselves in quite a negative mindset when it comes to their fulfillment, because they feel as though it's more of a chore than something they want to be doing. So is that something you come across quite frequently in practice, and how do those people, I guess, either shift their mindset or divert that attention, because that is something they need to be doing to facilitate their lives? Definitely.
And I mean, at the end of the day, to have food and water on your table and to have a roof over your head is the biggest why. You know, and yes, your job may mean that you need to work night shift, or you need to work weekends, or you need to work 12-hour shifts, and that might not feel fulfilling. Yeah. But the fulfillment of having food in your stomach and a roof over your head and your children fed and clothed and educated is enough of a why to keep doing that. And so if we can find a why in other spaces, like a hobby or something that, you know, a skill or something that you can take away from as a personal achievement or accomplishment, can definitely be a why. I mean, not everyone has the ability to be an entrepreneur and to open their own business up, and you know, and I think especially with social media these days, there's this massive preconception of like, you're not killing it unless you're doing this entrepreneurial, you know, journey, or you have a business set up by 21 years old, and you know, this manifested highlight reel that everyone's projecting on social media, man. if you have money in the bank and if you're fed every single day and you have a pillow to rest your head on, you're doing far better than so many people in this world.
You're in the 1%, really.
Right, yeah.
It's all about it's all your mindset. It's
Definitely.
how you define what success is and where you place that importance.
Sure.
But before, I guess that whole concept of being an entrepreneur and having a side hustle and all that was kind of very prominent during this whole lockdown period, which I would love to dive into in just a moment. Before we get there, one thing I really wanted to ask you about was your opinion on the concept of motivation.
Sure.
Now, I think it's commonly tossed around when you hear people say, I'm not motivated, I don't have motivation, as though it's an asset that's sitting in the cupboard that you can just pick up and use on the day-to-day.
Wish I could just open my cupboard and be like, motivation.
This one, the blue one today.
Yeah.
But is motivation a false figment of our imagination that we sort of rely on? Is it something we're dependent on, or is it a valuable tool that actually exists? How do you see it? And I guess it plays into how it works with mindset,
right.
I suppose, as well.
I mean, I think, like you said, motivation has been this thing where you've got it or you don't have it, and you can or can't do things because it's there or it's not there. And I don't think that that's the case at all. I mean, motivation is a kickstart, definitely, but discipline and habit is far, far stronger than motivation. I mean, you know, I train 7 days a week. 3 of those days, there is no motivation to be seen.
Yeah.
And discipline gets me through. It gets me there. Although I'm, you know, moping around and dragging myself to the gym, discipline really shows up for me and goes, man, you know why you want to do this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, motivation is lovely when it's a bit of a kick in the butt. But at the end of the day, mindset is about discipline. It's what you do over and over and over again. You expose yourself gradually to something that you reap reward in whatever it is that you do. And so you understand why it is you do these things. And I think that when people say, I can't do it because I'm not motivated, that's bullshit.
Yeah, and I think that's spot on, and I think it's a bit of a cop-out when you hear people say, oh, I'm not motivated. And look, I've said it to myself plenty of times.
Yep.
I'm not motivated to go for that run today.
Yep.
I'm not motivated to write that copy that I needed to write today. But you're absolutely right. I think that the routines and the rituals that you instill is what gets you over the line. Definitely. So it comes down to, you know, something like journaling every morning was something originally I thought, well, I don't really get a benefit out of doing it day to day. It's more like when I feel like doing it, I'll do it.
Sporadically, yeah. But
the point being, if you make it a routine, it becomes a habit and it just becomes ingrained in your daily life. And then you don't need to wait for that kickstart, that motivation.
Sure.
Albeit when that is there, it's fantastic.
Cool, yeah.
It's like you've just revved up
charge.
the gears. You've gone from a Hyundai to a Ferrari in like 2.0 seconds.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, I totally agree. I think it is something people... I want to be careful how I phrase this, but I think they hinge a lot of their laziness onto it because they think, well, I don't have it, that boat sailed, I don't need to kind of follow it.
Correct.
But I think if there's something you want to do, you need to look at how your daily patterns, habits are being conducive to that event happening or not, rather than relying on motivation, which some days will show up for you and others it won't, but you can show up for yourself.
Definitely. Most definitely. And I think, you know, just like you said, if you continue to expose yourself to this routine or structural pattern in your day, you really close the gaps of anxiousness and depressive episodes and things like that, because you have the why. You have what it is that I need to be doing and what's important for me, and the value base. I mean, when we don't have anything to aim at, we really are just walking around aimlessly and not really navigating towards something that is beneficial or positive for us.
Yeah. So I think in a nice nutshell, mindset, I guess, is highly linked to your why, your fulfillment. It's what keeps you going day to day, and your mindset is aided by your routines and your rituals that get you there. Yeah. And motivation is essentially a bonus. It's not it doesn't show up for you to start.
Right.
You know, if it's there, it's a bonus. And I think that's a good way to look at it, to not get caught in a loop where you're
just can't find the motivation.
Yeah, or you're just inactive, really.
Right.
Just sort of hanging around.
Yeah.
I guess what I wanted to dive into next was this whole isolation period. And now the restrictions are easing. So at time of recording, we're just about to enter stage 2 of restrictions tomorrow.
Yes.
So once you're all listening to this, it would have been a week or two that things have been eased.
Yeah.
And I guess for a lot of people, and I'm going to speak personally here,
Sure.
I'm quite a social person.
Yeah.
I love hanging out. I've always been that type. I've got a night free, I'll see what friends available. But I found that recently I've just had like a completely different mentality where I don't really want to be in large groups, and the thought of doing things I used to do before, I'd just much rather be at home. And, from a professional perspective, can you talk to me a little bit about the social anxieties that, you hear it going around. Everyone might have social anxiety now coming out of this period, but what does that actually mean? And how can people navigate thoughts and emotions
around that? I think that, this pandemic came on so aggressively, so quickly. And for us, we had to adapt our lives around the changes almost instantly. And for a lot of people, that brought a massive shock to their autonomy. It really just rattled our day-to-day function. And we had to kind of navigate around what this means for us on an everyday basis. And so as we, this happened mid-March, and so we've really tried to navigate what normal feels like right now, and
reevaluate.
And that's, disconnecting from friends physically and family members physically, taking away, gyms and restaurants and shopping centers and all the things that people find solace in. And they've had to just really hone in on, being at home. And for some people, that is not a pretty place to be, especially when home is in our mind. And, we know that so many people struggle with being with their thoughts, and without the distractions of the world. It has really shown in people's behavior and people's thoughts, and I've seen it exacerbated in a clinical setting. For a lot of people that are already struggling with different mental health disorders, this time has really exacerbated a lot of those symptoms. And so stepping into these restrictions being eased, I think we really need to be quite kind to ourselves in regards to transitioning back to normal life. And really start small. I mean, if you're feeling quite overwhelmed or anxious about going back into, large groups or going to shopping centers and things like that, catch up with one friend one-on-one and go for a walk and make it really casual and just see how you feel. Like, we've now got to re-transition into a normal period, which means a new set of adaptions. And for our minds, we're like, I just got here, now you want to take me out of it and you want to put me, back
Stop playing with me, girl.
into this other norm, which isn't really normal. I mean, I understand that restrictions are easing, but coronavirus isn't gone, and we don't have a vaccine for it, and nothing's really changed in terms of the pandemic or the virus. But it's just that, people need to get out. And as well as people being concerned about their physical health and what that means in terms of the virus, I think mental health is something that's been majorly impacted and probably not spoken about enough during this pandemic. And so with social anxiety and feeling that overwhelmed sensation of having to engage in large groups or with people, and people coming out of this situation being like, I started a new business, or I rearranged my house, or I saved X amount of money. And then some other people feeling like, I could hardly get out of bed every morning. I just got up and did my work and then went back to sleep, and that was all that I had capacity for. And so there's a lot of people that are feeling the kind of, I guess, judgment that probably isn't even there, but the judgment of, I didn't capitalize on this situation.
Right. Yeah, I think there was a bit of an odd vibe going around that, now's the time to capitalize on your side hustles and this. And even I spoke to a couple friends. I mean, the podcast definitely, I had more time to work on it during that period. So for me, it went the other way. I definitely had more time to devote to it. But I had a lot of friends, and they were sort of bouncing around ideas and projecting things to me as though they had to pitch something that they were working on. And it was this sense of what I should be doing versus what I want to be doing. And I think it's interesting coming out of this period. It's now even something I'm assessing, like, what should I be doing? Should I be going to that event? Should I be hanging out with all these people? And is that what I want to be doing? I mean, my partner and I have even just discussed that moving into the new norm. One of the Friday, Saturday or Sunday nights is just going to be us at home, because we found that time together, we just didn't have it. It was non-existent because our lives were so busy, so many distractions. So it's now coming into what should we be doing versus what we want to be doing. And I think that's often a bit of a difficult choice to make, especially when it comes to our family events or, you know, how is there a way that we can navigate what we should and want to be doing to help us really align with that balance that some people may have worked out they need during this period or not.
Right. And just on that, you know, people slowed down their lives and reevaluated what was important to them. And for you, that's spending quality time with your partner that you probably wouldn't have had because they've, you know, events left, right, and center, weddings, christenings, all the things. Yeah. All the things that are always going on. And, you know, for the first time, my calendar's empty, which is insane for me because I track everything in color coordination.
In 6 bridal parties in the last 5 weeks.
You know, even now, like when I look at my phone, I usually track everything in color coordination and
very thorough. Yeah, very thorough.
You know, I've got breakfast in here. But you know, for the first time in a very long time have I looked at it and been like, I'm actually very free. You know, and for me that was really relieving because I've just been on the go for what feels like the last decade. And you know, although we were put into this situation without our kind of consent, it has given us the opportunity to slow it all down and to reevaluate. So for some people, they killed a side hustle, they, you know, saved lots of money, they came up with a great idea. And for other people, their mental health deteriorated so much that getting out of bed was just enough, and that's okay too. You know, and I think it's important that everyone looks at this situation individually and not as a collective. I mean, everyone has their own stuff going on. No one knows what happens behind closed doors. And, you know, if someone is really excelling in their career, good for them. And if someone else is able to wake up in the morning and get their work done and have a shower and brush their teeth, that's awesome too. And I think it's really important that we look at ourselves and we evaluate our own personal situations, and only we know what goes on in our lives and what, you know, how layered our lives are. And we can't look at other people's highlight reel like we were talking about in regards to social media and judge it in accordance with our behind the scenes.
Yeah, and that's an important point, and it's often easy to get lost in the flow of social media and think, wow, they're doing so well. But guys, just don't forget, people only show you the good stuff. That's why it's called a highlights reel. You'll never see their bad days, the mornings where they can't get up, where they are searching for their why. And so you got to be careful what metric you're using to measure your own, I guess, success or coming out of this period, how you're determining how you've done. And so I guess that's what the theory is all about. It's about balance is unique to yourself. You can't find a blueprint for it. And it really comes down to you saying, okay, right now I'm at X position and I want Y and Z. And I know that means I need A, B, and C. And that might mean you need to cut off social ties for a little while. It might mean you need to put all your effort into your fulfillment category. It might mean that your mental health needs to take a much larger chunk of your time, you know, whatever it is. And it'll be all based off the exercise we went through in episode 0. But that really is going to be your metric. And you can't look at what Nancy's done during this period or what friends or family of yours have done, because it's just all so relevant to how they're feeling, their responsibilities. And I'm sure people, if they could, they would have done a lot more, but they might have responsibilities that just physically didn't allow them to. They had mouths to feed, and I'm sure they maybe wanted to write a book or, you know, it's all proportionate to what you're going through. So coming out of this period, I think it's really, really important to take a step back and assess your own metric rather than, you know, comparing. Comparison is the thief of what do they say? Joy. I think that's maybe. Right. Roosevelt, I think. Theodore Roosevelt.
Don't quote us.
I will fact check that.
And you know what, even for me, like I found, you know, I was like, okay, we've got all this downtime, I'm gonna smash out YouTube videos, I'm gonna do so much content, I'm gonna start a podcast, I'm going to, and I was like, yeah, that's probably not gonna happen. You know, I was like, if I can get to work, sweet. You know, if I can do my work with the highest quality, then I'm really, really happy about that. And, you know, if I can drop some content here and there, cool. And only now, coming out of, you know, the other side of quarantine, have I started to do some IGTV stuff, sessions with socks. which are like 5-minute random videos that I literally don't edit.
Thought of the day.
Yeah, I just bang out in one go and go, yeah, that's good enough, because I had this idea where I was going to do lights and cameras and make it super professional and all of that, and the idea is great, but the execution just wasn't there, and I kept really procrastinating it. And I got to the point where I was like, why am I doing this? I'm doing it because I want to educate people in the most simplest terms about psychology and their mental health. And I don't need the glamour and the glitz, because that was really hindering the execution of what I wanted to say. And so now I'm filming it in my car in 5 minutes before getting out and going to work. And that's raw and it's genuine and it's done.
Well, it correlates with your why. Like your why is to educate, and people aren't going to give a shit whether you have a ring light or not. They're not going to actually know, especially if they're just audio listening.
Right.
I think that's a good point. If there's something that you feel you're procrastinating right now, or you've really been putting off, think of why you're doing it. Yeah. And the reason you're procrastinating, is it proportionate to the why? Does it matter?
Sure.
Because if the answer is no, then you should just bypass that completely where you can. Obviously dependent on your circumstance. But that's funny you say that, because even kickstarting this podcast, if I'm being honest, it took me a while to get into it. And it was literally only when my partner pulled out the mics and plugged them in because he had to record something for work. And I was like, it's that easy. And that's what I've been putting off. Like just literally
organizing the equipment,
getting it done. And I was just like, once it was done, I was like, there's no further hurdle. I just gotta go for it now.
The excuses are gone now.
Yeah. Where's my motivation? Left it in the cupboard.
And I think that's super important. I mean, we build this hype up around the things that we want to be done, and we're like, it's way harder than I think it is, or there's so many layers to it that I'm like, do I have the time for it? Do I have the motivation for it? And at the end of the day, I literally picked up my phone. I was like, you know what? I've got this idea right now, like in my head. I'm just going to bang it out in one go. And I was like, yeah, pretty good. All right, done.
I ain't so bad.
And people responded really well to it. And I was like, okay, I did it. I mean, I didn't have to do the whole bit to get it done. I just was really raw and genuine about it. And I think that's what people like. People want to feel like they can relate to you. And resonate with the information that you're giving them. And, just like everybody else, I'm a human too. I mean, I take on that information. I go, this is a lot harder said than done, but I'm learning too, and I, just because I'm a psychologist doesn't mean I have all the answers. Trust me. I mean, I still call up my friends and I go, what should I do about this?
What do I reply to that message?
And they're like, aren't you the psychologist? I was like, I don't have all the answers, damn it. So I'm as human as everybody else is, and so I thought, why don't I just put a really humanistic touch to it and just be me.
I love that. Very genuine. And it's really, I think when you look back, you'll think, oh my God, my first video or my first attempt was horrible. But of course it's going to be, because along the way you grow, you learn, you adapt. And really you've just got to, I think, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's not going to be perfect. No. If you want to do something, just start it, and then you will grow as you go. And you know what? If you have an audience, they'll grow with you.
And they're like, when I started YouTube 2 years ago, I probably shot my first video about 15 times. I ummed and ahed like 1,000 times. I blinked 1 million times. And I look back at that footage and I'm like,
cringe.
Wow. I uploaded that. And at the time I was so super proud of it because I actually got it done. And it was the first time I had ever sat in front of a camera and articulated what was going on up here,
which is actually a lot harder than what you think.
So hard.
It's like equivalent to public speaking, I would say.
Massively.
Which is nuts, because it's not even live.
I know, and you want to be as raw and real as humanly possible, and as soon as a camera turns on, you're a babbling mess. And so when people
say, body.
You're like, hello, this is Psych with Socks.
I am really friendly.
And people say to me now, wow, you're so articulate, or you're so well spoken, or it's so easy for you. Man, that was not the case when I first started.
Should we link your first video? I haven't actually watched it, but you know, everyone starts somewhere, and highlights reel, right?
Definitely.
Like now, where you are now is, it's because you've grown and you've constantly refined the process to get there, but it took your rituals and you know, constantly practicing and refining
Definitely.
the process to get you
I just
there.
stopped overthinking it, I think. You know, I was like, how am I going to say it? What am I going to say? How are people going to interpret it? I just had a list of things that may or may have not gone wrong. And now I'm just like, man, just do it. And if it comes out and you like it and you think that it's relatable and it's valuable, put it out there, whatever. You don't need all the extra bits to it. And I think that the difference between, you know, my YouTube at the start versus now my IGTV stuff is it's just me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Without the flashy lights.
Yeah. I mean, the flashy lights.
You are the flashy lights.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for your time.
Welcome. I loved it.
I've had so much fun. And this will not be the last time you see Nancy
I'll be back
on the show. And I can't wait to see your podcast. I'm not even going to say if, because you would do a great job. And
I mean, stay tuned for that. I don't know when. I've got to reorganize my time. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a complete honor. I mean, this was a little bit easier than I thought it would be.
That's good.
And it's a lot easier with a very engaging host as well.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you so much for that.
Everyone, just go easy on yourselves, and I will put all of Nancy's resources in the links below so you can get access to it. Her IGTVs are very, very raw. I saw her filming one in the car when she arrived. So that will be going live soon, but I love it. She's very down to earth and approachable, and it's been an honor. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Until next time, stay balanced.
See you guys.
Bye. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Balance Theory podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, feel free to share it with any friends and family, and don't be afraid to tag, comment, rate or review any of our episodes on any of the mediums that you hear us on. Or you can also subscribe to our mailing list by heading over to our website, and that way you can keep in the loop with any updates or episode releases.